sometimes that unrelatability with others can feed an extra sense of difficulty with loneliness. Hello, I am Brother Francisco Whitaker, and this is All Good in the Brotherhood. As you can tell, I am a Benedictine monk, and I am so blessed in countless ways with my vocation. It's an opportunity and the place in which God has desired for me to encounter Him most. I have support of incredible family and friends, and then most importantly, my community. I have opportunities for prayer and for ministry. In countless ways, I'm extraordinarily blessed. However, just like any career, even one that we might love, or our vocation, even what God calls us to, at times has challenges. For Christ said, "Take up your cross and follow after me." He didn't say take up a bouquet of roses and follow after Him. So even our vocation, even what God calls us to, is going to have challenge. And sometimes people are surprised that as a monk, there are things that I find difficult or that there's challenges in monastic life and community life. Just because Christ is the center doesn't take away the fact that we're all still human and all still have challenges and difficulties. So I have, yes, had incredible, wonderful, overwhelming grace experienced here, but I've also had some real challenges. And what I will caveat that with is that these are challenges that I have faced. They're not problems necessarily. They're not problems that exist. They are challenges, difficulties that also are mine. Just because I struggle with this doesn't mean other monks do, and there might be some things that they have difficulty with that I don't find a problem at all. So these are just a few things that I have found as a challenge in being a monk. And I don't present them in any kind of oh, woe is me, I need a bunch of pity from everyone, just rather to show the reality of what it means to still be a human in a vocation. And these aren't things that are exclusively challenges that only monks face. I'm sure a lot of these things that I'm going to talk about you can resonate with in your own life. But sometimes people seem to take away the fact that once a person enters religious life or enters the monastery, they don't still experience these same struggles and these human emotions. So, to humanize and to understand that if these things are challenges for you, does not disqualify you from the possibility of being a monk or entering religious life, but also to show that, like, hey, we're human too. So, first thing that I've had challenges with it sometimes in my life here as a monk is loneliness. Now, I live in a community, right? So it might be tempting to think, well, what kind of loneliness would you have? Well, I'm sure everyone has experienced, even if they have the support of family, friends, or they're even in like a crowded room, still feeling lonely, apart, not seen. And here in the monastery, that can happen too. I have close friends, but we get busy, or, I have my family that I see at times, but that doesn't happen all of the time. And when I just get caught in my routine, at the end of the day, I come back and I'm still in my cell by myself. And that, of course, is how it's supposed to be, right? It is a reminder of how I am to cling to Christ. But in a human desire for relationship, when that is lacking, that's a challenge. And particularly because there is some unrelatability between me and people outside of the community. So if I am, distant or unable to connect with maybe a brother who understands here, even if I'm able to talk or share a little bit with some of the things going on in my life to people outside of the monastery, they don't quite get it. They don't live here, and they're not supposed to get it, right? Just like I don't get married life, so too people don't get monastic life if they don't live it. You can understand a lot of it, and there's so much connection and overlap between religious life and community life and family life, but it's not the same. So even sometimes when I share with my family or friends difficulties, they're like, oh, that must be really hard. I'm like, it is, but you still don't understand like why it might be difficult. Or when they're like, oh, well, that doesn't seem like a big problem. Well, actually it does a little bit. When you're sharing in community, there's expectations and there's things that we should be on the same page and we're not, and other people don't see them as a big problem. So sometimes that unrelatability with others can feed an extra sense of difficulty with loneliness. Also, when you're surrounded by a community And here, a community of particularly accomplished and just well-educated, well-known, well-accomplished individuals, that there's a lot of opportunity, unfortunately, for comparison. There's no competition, right? Because I'm not trying to be one step ahead of a brother or try to be, known. I want to be the one known in the monastery for X, Y, or Z. It's not supposed to be competition, right? Because we're all one together seeking Christ. That is the fundamental goal of the monk, is to prefer nothing to the love of Christ and to only seek him and run after him. Well, but, we still see human markers. So, that monk, he sings way better than I do, or he's a really good reader. His homilies are well received. That monk seems to have family come and visit all of the time. I don't. Or that monk clearly has friends in the community, outside of the community. Oh, he's just very bright and smart and does well academically. Oh, that's an athletic monk. Whatever it is, there's a tension that can build up inside of us of comparison, whether it's accomplishments or thinking, oh, that monk is holier, he's more devout than I am. Well, that can be a challenge for us to wrestle with, because then we start potentially resenting or dissing ourselves or feeling bad about who we are. But our identity should not be in comparing to others, but only in Christ. So that can be a challenge, and I certainly have dealt with that, both on the receiving end and on this giving end. And what that can do is disrupt the unity that should exist in the community. And as the Lord reminds Samuel when he's finding the new king for Israel, man looks at a person's appearance, but God sees the heart. So our goal in the community should not be comparing those outsides, but through Christ trying to find the heart of the person. There are also just tensions and differences of opinion here, and that can be another difficulty. And sometimes those tensions aren't always resolved in the timeline that they should be or they could be. And it can lead to what Benedict calls murmuring or complaining about a certain individual or about what he does or how he leads. And again, a lot of these things lead to a disruption of community. I think that's where the challenge is knowing we're supposed to be together, but finding places that it's not perfect. And we will never be perfect because we're not in heaven yet, but it's a challenge to desire to want to get to that ideal, but still having to face the reality. So those tensions, whether they're political, differences, ideas on liturgy, about the food we should eat, basically anything, there is going to be difference of opinion. But working on getting past opinion and getting to the person again can be the challenge. I have been written off sometimes for the way I think or feel. I've written off other people in the monastery for the way they think or feel, until I finally realized it's not about that. It's about the heart who loves Christ. And if I can see that in a person, or I hope to share that with them, then I can move on past these challenges. And a final challenge, and this is particularly, I think, a difficulty here at St. Vincent. I don't know about other communities. I haven't visited a lot of other monastery communities, although the ones I have, I could probably tell that this is an issue there too for some people, but is just burnout. Ora et labora is a Benedictine motto, prayer and work. But sometimes people have said our motto is labora et labora, work and work, just keep on working. Well, that's not actually true. Prayer is central to our day. We pray throughout the day together. So it is not labora et labora, but at times it can feel that way, that there's always more to do. There's always more tasks. There's always more assignments I got to get done. And after a while, sometimes if you don't have the zeal, or if you don't have the reminder of why we're doing these things always in our minds, it seems like a job again. And that can be a huge problem in religious and priestly life. If our vocation slips to just being perceived as a job or a career, we've lost it. And over time, we're eventually going to abandon it, because if it's just a career, it doesn't have the fulfillment it's supposed to have, because a vocation only is sustained because it's fulfilled by Christ and not by anyone else. So there's a temptation and a challenge I've certainly dealt with. It's like always being task-oriented rather than Christ-oriented. So working on that tension and that challenge, it's like, okay, you know what? Yes, I have a lot to do, but doing them is not the most important thing. And getting them done, yes, out of obedience or out of need that other people have expressed to me, fundamentally important. But it is not labora et labora. Ora has to always come first. If I center myself in prayer, then the work always will have meaning. If I divorce my work from prayer, then my work will only ever become a job that I might not want, and a job I might want to leave. So the challenge is to remind myself that prayer is always preeminently the most important thing I can do. So thank you for joining me. I hope that humanized monasticism for you a little bit. If you're surprised or shocked, leave a comment. If you have any other questions about, what about this in the monastery? Leave a comment. Share this video with someone. Now, it's obviously not all challenge. It's not all doom and gloom. I love the monastery. In fact, I have a video about my favorite parts about being a monk. So check that video out here. And if you haven't watched any of our podcast episodes, you definitely should, because biasly, we have some pretty good content. So check out that playlist here. Thank you for joining me. I'm Brother Francisco. Adios.